Welcome to Hub Healer, your home-based hub for all of your needs, business, personal, mind, body, and soul. I am Darlene Soshin, co-founder, membership and education director, and interview host for our Hub Healer membership podcast. Today, we have with us Natalie Puglisi. And why I am extra excited today is we're going to be talking about everything legal for your business. It's something that isn't always talked about if someone is a healer and you don't necessarily learn it in your certification program, or even coaches and practitioners if they are starting an online business, and people who have been in business also. So Natalie, I would love if you shared with our members today what it is that you do and who your clients are. What is it that they're looking for when they find you?
Yeah, I'm an online business attorney and I work with a wide variety of different clients. I have most of my clients are online based. So they are coaches, they are business coaches, they are intuitives, manifestation coaches. I have clients who are also products owners. So they have physical products, digital products such as courses, programs, memberships. And it's just wide. I have a wide variety of clients that do a lot of other things, but most of them are on Instagram and are working online exclusively with their clients. And it's a really wonderful space to be in. And I kind of stumbled upon this space in my own practice. It was actually a brick and mortar practice for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
then I found that a lot of people were missing how to set up the legal in their business, especially from an online component. And it just seemed like there really wasn't anything out there that was intuitive and easy to understand and not intimidating. So I really pivoted and started to market myself in this online space. And I find that a lot of my clients are looking for guidance and really just where to start. I don't really have a lot of clients that are, it's not like I have a majority of the clients are like, oh, I want to know about contracts or trademarks. People
Mm-hmm.
really just want to know where to begin. And that's kind of where I find myself, really flourishing, is really providing people education and value in a free way that will allow them to make informed decisions when it comes to setting up their legal and their business.
That's wonderful and so needed, because I see out there social media, people starting businesses, they're business coaches, social media experts, but very rarely is there someone like you that can help somebody set up and then know how to protect themselves. So what would you recommend if someone is first starting out? Where do they even begin?
Yeah, so I think people tend to think of legal like layers of a cake, right? You start here and then you kind of like build upon it. But I have a concept that I call the legal wall that I like people to think about. There's three different sections of that wall from a legal standpoint, and they protect you in a completely different way, each of them. So when you think about the legal wall, it's protecting your business kind of, across the board rather than setting up things from a legal perspective. So the first thing that people need to consider is whether they need to be an LLC. Most
Mhm.
people start off as what's called a sole proprietorship, meaning that you just go out and start doing business. An LLC is going to protect your personal assets, and it creates a separation between yourself and your business. So what it does is your business becomes its own person, essentially, meaning that if there's any liability, if you were to get threatened with a lawsuit or anything like that, it stays within your business. It doesn't go to your personal bank account or your savings or anything like that. That's one section of the wall. Then you have your contracts, which is protecting your website, your interactions with your clients if you're selling any products, physical or digital. And that's protecting you and limiting your liability in your interactions with your clients and customers. And then you have your trademarks and copyrights, which is brand protection and protecting your intellectual property. So your trademarks are protecting names, podcast name, business name, slogan, catchphrase, product name, course name, program name. And then your copyright is protecting your original works of art, which would be your blogs, your workbooks, your slide decks for your programs, your courses, the actual material that's in there. So when people think about where to start, it's overwhelming. That was a
Mhm.
very overwhelming 2 minutes of talk here of how to set up your legal, right? There's three different sections. But what I like to tell people, and what I find myself a very woo-woo attorney. So what I like to tell people, two things. If this is not a standard normal attorney answer, number one, lead with your heart. What are you most passionate about protecting? If it's your business name, then start with your trademark. If you feel like I'm really nervous about working with clients and I don't have a contract in place, then start with your contracts. Everything is rearrangeable. Everything can build upon each other. You don't have to start at this LLC, which is what people think. You can start at any different point. And then also figure out monetarily what works for you. My services and templates are all provided on a payment plan. And so sometimes that makes more sense if you look at like the different array and you're like, actually, I can afford to file my LLC right now, then just bang that out and get that done as long as you're starting somewhere.
Thank you so much. That's incredible information. So I have one question about trademark. Say your business, what I noticed over the last several years, people are using their own names as their business name rather than coming up with catchy phrases. Would something like that still be important to trademark, even though it's their
It,
own
de-
name?
it depends on what your name is, and it depends on how unique it is. I have very little concern about someone else calling themselves Natalie Puglisi and also being an online business attorney, although you never know. But if you are making handbags and your name is Kate Spade, then you may want to consider something like a trademark. So I would always recommend that people trademark their business name, even if it is their own name,
Mhm.
because it's not only going to protect the exact name, it's going to protect something substantially similar. So let's say my name was Kate Suede, right? And I wanted to make handbags. I would not be able to do that because Kate Spade's name is trademarked. So it's really important, even if you do have a unique name, even if you are using your own name, to consider filing for a trademark, because it is going to protect, again, that exact name or anything that's substantially similar in the same field that you are offering your products or services in.
That's wonderful. I had never thought of that, trademarking the business name. So another question that comes up is contracts. So a lot of practitioners or healers, especially, like energy workers, they go online, they set up their website, and it's almost like when they get their certification, they put their plaque up on the wall if they're brick and mortar. The contracts, how important are they, and why would you recommend that someone like an energy healer, or even a tarot card reader or an astrologist, what would be important about having a contract when you work with clients?
So the most important thing is to clear up any miscommunication. That's the whole point of a contract, right?
Mhm.
Is I don't know however many times you've sent like a text to a girlfriend or you've received a text and you're like, God, that was kind of like, and you misunderstood it, right? Or a text that you wrote was misunderstood. Sometimes there can be lines of communication that isn't really clear, especially if you are in the type of work where you have a discovery call or you have an initial kickoff call. People hear different things. And sometimes you have clients that are like, oh, I get an extra session, right? It's 13 sessions, but really it's 12 sessions. Or if I don't, if I cancel the session within 24 hours, I get to make that up, right? Like there needs to be clear lines of communication. And what I like to tell my clients is contracts create energetic boundaries between yourself and your clients. And even if you are in a field of work such as energy healers, Reiki, um, where you have clients that are open to, that type of work, that type of energy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't need to set up those boundaries. And that contract is what's going to do that. You're going to let them know what's expected of them, refunds, payment plans, again, rescheduling. You're going to set up that boundary for yourself with your client. You're also going to let them know what you're going to be providing to them. And that's really important to set that up. And that is absent all the other legalese that should be in your contract, such as intellectual property protection, right? If you share with them a course or program, you want to make sure they're not going to steal it and create
Mhm.
one that's exactly like yours. dispute resolution clauses, which says that you're only going to settle things through arbitration, that you both agree that you're not going to initiate a lawsuit. Absent those legal languages, really energetically setting up boundaries is the most important thing that contracts do.
And so as you were talking, what was coming up is, say we have a client who utilizes more than one of our services. So they may come for an initial session or some sort of training or a program. A lot of coaches offer programs. Should there be a separate contract for each service, or is it just between the one contract for the person, for the provider and the client? What would that look like?
Rather than thinking about it like contracts for services, think about it contracts for the people that you're servicing. So if you are working one-on-one with clients, then you want a client agreement in place that's going to be between yourself and that individual client.
Okay.
The reason why you want a specific contract for that is because every client's unique. You may offer services for 3 months to one client. You may offer 4 months to another client, a different payment plan. You may throw in a bonus for this client because you guys connect a little bit more or whatever. When you work with a group of people, then you're going to want to have what's called a terms of use in place. A terms of use is that little box that we check whenever we buy anything online. If you're buying something physical, it's actually called a terms of service. But if you were to open it up, it's a way to automate a contract for a larger group. And there's a lot of similar language, but there is some different language because now you're working with a group of people, right? You need to have consent to record, right? You need to, if you're having a group coaching session or a group Reiki healing session, you want to record it, you need everybody's consent to record. That's actually a legal requirement and it's specific by state. You also need to have language for a payment plan if you've got a membership, right? And rather than send these individual contracts, let's say you go to bed, you wake up and 35 people have signed up for your membership. Rather than send 35 people an individual contract, you can set up a little box that they check where they agree to all of your terms upon purchasing, and it really eliminates a lot of the work there. But you don't want to do that with a one-on-one client because you're creating a different relationship and you're offering different services. So you don't really want that to be automated. Also, usually one-on-ones tend to be a little bit more expensive. So you really want to detail that out. But when you're offering a group, having a terms of use in place is really effective. And it's also really going to accomplish efficiency in your business.
Wonderful information. So that leads me to another question that I was going to ask you, because we would be individualizing the contract. There's not templates out there, or are there? And why would you recommend not using templates that somebody could just Google and find online?
Yeah, so there are templates. I offer templates, and I actually offer templates that are customized based on your unique business. So if you're a business coach, you have different language than if you are what I call that in the health and fitness field, which is what your audience would be more catered towards, right? You need a little bit more medical language in there. You're working with energy, you're working with interpersonal relationships. You need that language. If you're offering financial advice to someone, you don't necessarily need that language. So templates are a really highly effective way to get started with your contracts and your business, but you don't want to Google them for the exact reason that I mentioned. You want ones that are going to be specific to your unique business. And when you work with an online business attorney that understands the online space and also understands your business, then you know that those templates that you're going to be using are going to be really effective for you personally. If you Google something, you don't know that the contract isn't written for a plumber or that it has everything that legally needs to be in there. So for example, privacy policies have legal requirements for language that needs to be in there. If you have one in place that's missing the requisite legal language, you could be fined up to $2,500 per visitor to your site. If you're going to Google or go to someone else's website or ask your friend Linda for hers and she provides it to you, you don't know that it's satisfying all of the legal requirements that needs to be in that privacy policy. So it's really important not to Google them. It's most important not to borrow them from your friends or allow your coaches to give them to you, because it's intellectual property to the attorneys that drafted
Right.
them. So just like I wouldn't go to the intellectual property protection belongs to the attorneys that drafted them. We're also small business owners. We run on,
Mm-hmm.
working with clients, and you actually need that attorney's expressed written permission when you use their contract. So when you buy a template, you get a license to use it in your own business, not to share it. So be really careful. I've had a lot of clients that come to me because they've gotten in trouble by other attorneys because they were using contracts that they didn't have permission to use.
And that's something that people don't always think about, because Google and the internet, most people think, oh, I'll go find what I need. And they don't understand that there's legalities behind that. Like it can be trademarked and everything's missing. So this leads me to an important conversation, because most of us now have online businesses. And what is required? Some people just think, oh, I will have a website published, put on online, and I'm done. What's important to have on your website to make it legal? Not everybody understands that there is something behind just publishing a website and putting it online.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, privacy policy is legally required. If you're in the US and also in the European Union, you legally have to have a privacy policy on your website. And what most people don't understand is there are international laws that dictate what also need to be in your privacy policy. So even though you're not catering to someone in Italy, let's say, there are still laws. If one person from Italy looks at your website, your privacy policy has to have the requisite legal language to satisfy those international laws. So your privacy policy is far, in order to avoid penalties and fines, it's the one that really kind of is the front runner there. But also having your terms and conditions in place. Your terms and conditions is what is going to be protecting your content. So it is protecting the look and feel. It's protecting all of the legal language that's on there, all of your language that's on there, the names of your programs. And then lastly, a disclaimer, which in my opinion is going to let people know that everything on your site is for general and informational purposes only, that you're not giving any medical advice, financial advice, anything like that. And that language is also in your contracts as well. It's in all the templates that I have, because you also really want to have that be mentioned. And I don't know if you've ever watched any late night infomercials for like a weight loss, like bodybuilding, whatever it may be, right? And they say results not typical. Well, your disclaimer is also going to let people know that the testimonials on your site are the words of your clients. In no way is that a guarantee of working with you. So some people say, I healed my marriage in, a few sessions or whatever it may be. Like that's someone else's experience and that's their words. It's not a guarantee of what can be accomplished when working with you. It's highlighted and it's nice, but we don't want to have that language on there that's like, for sure you're going to get this.
So yeah, the wrong idea. The disclaimer is so important. It's one of the first things I remember learning when I was putting up a website. So what would you see when people reach out to you? Are there typical mistakes that people are making when they get started, or if they're asking you to review their business from a legal standpoint? What is something
honestly, the biggest mistake is not starting. That's really what people tend to do. They think that legal is going to be too expensive or too confusing, or they don't have time to do it. That's also a really common one. And so they just don't start. And I think that's where people get tripped up. That's the biggest mistake that people are making, because they have this conception that, oh, my contracts are probably going to cost me like $10,000 to get in place. And so they just don't do anything. There's not really, aside from the common Googling or borrowing your friend's contracts, which can get you in a lot of legal trouble as well, really just not having the faith to get started is like kind of that's the biggest thing that I see most from people. So
I love that. Natalie, thank you so much. This has been incredible information and a lot of pieces that, someone jumping online or wanting to start their dream vision, their business, they don't always think of all of these, the legal aspect. So I hope that you would enjoy coming back and answering some more questions in the future. It was wonderful to have you. And where can our members and listeners find you if they'd like to learn more?
Yeah, so I'm highly active on Instagram, and I like to tell people that I have a no fluff Instagram account. You're not going to find a lot of pictures of my kids and quotes on there. I really give a ton of value. Every post is save worthy. Every post is going to give you tips and tricks and I don't know, just a ton of value there. So you
Yes.
can find me on Instagram. It's at Natalie Puglisi, Puglisi. And then my website is just nataliepuglisi.com.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated your time. This has been Hub Healer. Your holistic business path begins and expands here. Hub Healer was created because we know your dream was given to you for a reason. It's time to step into your dream. I am Darlene Soshin, co-founder of Hub Healer, and I will see you in the next interview.